So I'm excited to be able to share with you and introduce to you Mr. Richard Platt, who's with Southeast High School, who's going to share a little bit about that program in his school and what it looks like and what those students are doing. Richard?
Can you guys hear me? What I want to talk about is about a revolution that's beyond our imagination, anything that we could ever possibly imagine. What I want to talk about, next slide, next point, please. Okay, it's not about communism. Next slide, please. It's not about industrialists like Henry Ford. Next. It's not about these two guys, Gates and Steve Jobs. It's about and what all this started is back in 1995 when the internet revolution basically started. I sat through a presentation, and this guy started talking about buying coffee online, started about buying cars online, and I thought, and doing banking online. I thought this guy was crazy. But it was at a major U.S. corporation that I heard this in California, and I was completely just thought this guy was off his rocker. But go ahead, keep going. But we're right now in the beginnings of the second part of that revolution that started with the internet. We're in the beginning of what was called the new industrial revolution. It's called the Maker revolution, please. This presentation is basically a call to action about what's going on. Next. I got to get through this really fast. I'm going to have to hurry. My background. First of all, I want to tell you what my background is. I started at Johnson Space Center. Let's just go down like 3 more points. I started at Johnson Space Center in Houston with a manned spaceflight program with a space shuttle. In fact, on the other side of that wall was Jim Lovell's office from Apollo 13. We worked on the shuttle. We did all kind of design with it. And then after I left NASA, I went to work as a CAD systems engineer. Went all over the United States, working with people doing computer-aided design and drafting from Walmart and Dillard's department store to Exxon to nuclear weapons facilities at Los Alamos and Sandia National Labs. Next slide, please. And then after that, I did that for 28 years. Next slide, please. I wanted to become a teacher, and let's talk about why. Well, I never saw my family. I was gone all the time, and I wanted to spend more time with my son, helping him to do something good. So I got to coach him in the Little League. He got to be a professional baseball player. But that wouldn't have happened unless I moved to Manatee County. Next slide, please. Oh, does this work? Okay, good. Okay, what happened was when you become a teacher, I knew that after 18 years of corporate sales working for Fortune 500 companies that I had to retool. And what happened was, we had 9/11. So I became a teacher after that from what happened in 9/11 and also a presentation I gave at Arizona State University. And what happened was, I walked into this room, and I'm meeting with the College of Engineering, and I'm looking in the room going, where are the Americans? They were all Indian students, or they were all Chinese students. One American sitting there. I talked to the professor afterwards. Well, what's going on here? Why aren't there more American students here? He goes, hey, they all want to become investment bankers. And that kind of didn't work out in 2009. So I came from that experience, said I want to make kids excited about technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so what I did is I went to Southeast High School in 2012. I taught at Braden River for 4 years. And Southeast High School is a very, very interesting place, very misunderstood school. It's considered an inner city school, low and performing. It's a beautiful campus, an incredible campus. And we also now have, at the time Southeast, when I went there, it was only 1,049 students. Since 2012, we're now up to 1,700 students, almost at capacity. And we had what we call white flight. Everybody moved out east, going to Lakewood Ranch or going to the Braden River area. But now they're coming back. And the reason is because we have the International Baccalaureate Program. In 2013, the highest overall campus was Lakewood Ranch. They brought in $3.5 million in scholarship, and that's a huge number. 78 students from Southeast High School brought in $8.5 million in scholarships to go into schools like MIT. We had 4 graduate from MIT, to Stanford, to Duke, to Cornell, to Yale, to Brown. We've had kids do extremely, extremely well in our IB program. Well, in 2010, I was recruited by Southeast to start an engineering program. And that was quite a challenge to get it started. But we actually, what happened here? We actually have a world-class facility at Southeast High School. Believe it or not, it's an amazing place. But when we start talking about making this new industrial revolution, Thomas Jefferson said, every 28 years, this country needs a revolution. It doesn't necessarily mean about communists versus capitalists or anything like that. It could be about making. It could be about why this maker revolution is happening. I read these 2 books recently. If you haven't read them, you got to read them. They are phenomenal. It's about what's going on in the country. It's the Makers, the Revolution by the New Industrial Revolution by Chris Anderson, the former editor of Wired magazine, and also Mark Hatch's book, The Maker Manifesto. And it's talking about what's going on in this country right now. And basically what these two books talk about is the democratization of the means of production. You know, communists were always concerned about, you know, capitalists having the control of the means of production. Well, what's going on right now, if you wait and watch, is the China problem. The China problem is real exciting. I used to be so upset with all our jobs going to China. I kind of changed my opinion on that because it's become our opportunity. Everyone here in Mandy County has this opportunity. So what happened in the Maker Revolution is that we are now putting ourselves in a position where every person can, at their home level or on their desktop, have instruments of production where we can now make and manufacture our own products and sell it. With the emergence of companies like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, now people have a way in which they can distribute their products globally. So a small guy can be sitting, let's talk about Glenda Vasquez. Glenda Vasquez is a sophomore in my high school. She came and wanted to be in my class because she wanted to learn about Adobe Illustrator. So finally one day I said, well, what's the deal with you and Adobe Illustrator? She was all over me about every technique and method. I said, why do you want to learn about Adobe Illustrator? Well, Mr. Platt, I work with my cousins and we have an Etsy business and we sold 4,533 t-shirts. Think about that. A girl 3 blocks from our house, from our school, has made and sold that many products. Well, what causes all that to happen is now we have access to very inexpensive equipment. We have access to, which formerly would cost tens of thousands of dollars. We have access to 3D printers that we can now buy for $800 at Sam's Club. We have access to laser engravers that we can now buy off eBay for $349. We have access to CNC machines that we can either build ourselves like we're doing at Southeast High School, or we can buy them off eBay for less than $600. So we now have means to production. Well, how is that translated into our programs and into our students? Well, our students are now getting access to that. When we talked about how Manatee County has actually won more awards at the national level than the state of Texas, which I'm from Texas. Hope you don't hold that against me. But that's actually true. But what does that translate to when a girl goes and builds a little wooden car or a boy builds a little wooden car? What it translates to is being a school that can go and compete at the international level against 44 nations, 32 million students, and win first place in 2010, third place in Kuala Lumpur in 2012. We took a year off in, 2012 we took a year off. 2011 we won third in Kuala Lumpur. In 2013, second in the world, and in 2014, which we just got back from Abu Dhabi last year, we were fourth in the world. Here we talk about a little sleepy beach town on the west coast of Florida, who we all talk about how American education is not working, and yet these kids go and compete against the best countries in the world. So that's huge. But not only does it stop there, it translates into a boy who was 17 years old, of a Palestinian descent, go and build a national record-setting car, who this year just had his first project come to fruition, and it's at Cox Chevrolet. It's a 2016 Chevy Malibu. We have another student, Mark Nanny, who spent his summer in England working for McLaren, working on $2 million Formula One cars that compete in the Formula One races all over the world. And then we got this little girl. Oh, actually, we got one more. We have a student named Mark Medina who now is working at Honda in Ohio, designing the new engines for Honda's cars to compete against Toyota. Now we have this little girl, Merritt Kinzior, a little girl. She is 3-time national champion and beat all those boys in what she's done in designing and manufacturing her own cars. Last year, in the last 2 years, she's beat 274 boys at the national level and has never lost a race because she understands how to use these technologies that's starting this maker revolution. What I would challenge you to do is to get a chance to come out to Southeast High School, to go into our maker spaces. Mark Hatch talks about how Ford wanted to have their own maker space where their engineers could go out and make new things. And they did. They made 32 new patents. I have everything in my classroom that Mark Hatch has in Detroit, thanks to Mr. Wagner and our ACT department here in Manatee County. Our kids are world class, and they're proving it in countries all over the world, in the Netherlands, and we competed in Germany, we competed in Abu Dhabi, we've competed in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. Our kids are global, but it's because of what we're doing in our maker spaces that we have on our campuses right now and our access to this technology. So I know we're all hungry, so let's go ahead and get something to eat right now.